Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I am your host, as always, Chad Porto. And joining me today was just a Tuesday, Mark Green. And for you, it was the greatest day of your life, but for Bison, it was Tuesday. Marks Green, how are you?
Yes, sir. Doing okay. RIP to the GOAT. One of the GOATs.
We've lost so many people, I don't know who we're talking about. Oh,
And,
Raul
and
Julia.
by,
Never mind.
yeah.
I was like, this is a new one. We have a new one. So we're coming off the heels of Sacrifice. There's a lot of news to talk about. So I'm going to run through Sacrifice real fast. We're going to talk some turkey, and then we're going to get into the meat of today. Today's going to be a weirdly flowing show. There's no way to do this show properly, so we're just going to do it accurately. Lots of heavy content we're talking about today, and also a lot of silly content we're talking about today. Firstly, we're going to talk about Sacrifice. It was the big event over the weekend, and it was, I would say, a solid C plus. Not a bad match on the card, but nothing I would say is go see it at all costs good. I didn't see the opening Joe Hendry Crazy Steve match. Joe Hendry was replacing who was it? Rhino. It says right here. Laredo Kid. He was replacing Laredo Kid in the match, and who had visa issues. Didn't see that. Speedball Mountain and the Rascals were on the pre-show. I feel like that match on the main show would have been fantastic, but we didn't see that. The Nick Nemeth and Steve Macklin match was fine. It felt more like a mid-card NXT match than anything. Nothing to write home about, but it got Nick Nemeth a big win. In some big shocking news, the System defeated ABC to win the tag team titles. This has me thinking that they're splitting up ABC, with Bay and Ace Austin being guys that they probably need in the main event scene. I think I don't know what to do with Bay to differentiate himself enough from Ace in terms of as a heel persona, and I don't know what you can do with him as a face right now. I'm just not seeing it. I'm sure there's something there. I would like to see Bay go face, though. I think Chris Bay, maybe he gets involved with Rich Swann. Swan kind of mentors him a little bit, and Ace Austin goes full heel again, because I really liked Ace as a mom fucking porn star wannabe heel. I thought that was a great gimmick that he was a little bit too baby faced for. I feel like he's gotten to a point now he can pull that off. So I'd like to see them be the new focal point of the main event scene over the next year. Maybe not slap the titles on it, either of them right now, but definitely start getting them into that area. Eddie, right now, I think is best suited for the tag team division. You know, the years of being the ace of the company is definitely worn on him. He's not as crisp as he once was, but he's still a great hand. And I feel like Brian Myers needs a tag team partner to be relevant. So I feel like this is the best idea for them right now for the system. I like that. Marcus, before we hop into any more, did you have any thoughts on the dark matches, the pre-show match, whatever you want to call them, and the two openers?
Yeah, the two pre-show matches, solid stuff. Hendry and Steve, but ultimately um, I never saw Steve dropping it, particularly when you realize that it kind of played backdrop to the Joe Hendry and AJ Francis feud, which they're going into for this coming Thursday. Uh, so that was fine. To your point, that tag match could have well been on the main show, but those guys put on a banger. Um, Kicked it off with Macklin and Nemeth. Thought it was a real solid thing. Nemeth got put through the work with Macklin. Macklin took a nasty spill to the outside. Um, we got to give credit. Absolutely nasty spill to the outside. Nastiest spill of the year, still the damn Darby thing, but again, it's Darby Allin. So, but yeah, it's a real solid stuff. Love the way he had to do two super kicks followed by the danger zone to put him down. So that was cool. Still have Macklin looking strong. And was surprised at the tag team outcome, but was even more surprised at how much I liked Edwards and um
Myers?
Slate together. What was that?
I said Myers.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Miles and Elvis together, like you said, to your point, I think Elvis is real good suited to the tag team division right now, and even more so with Myers, who could use the momentum that comes with having a partner like that. And shout out to Myers, he had another great moment of the night with that damn apron spear he hit on Ace Austin, which was another nasty one. So yeah, didn't see it coming, but to your point, they may very well be moving ABC up. I mean, they've had a hell of a run as a team, and certainly a hell of a run as champions. I think the longest tag reign in recent times. So yeah, it's a hell of a thing. Now the system is currently working quite well, as they have all to go. Most of it.
And I think one of the things that I'm most excited about with the system is possibly expansion. Maybe Alicia finally gets her hands on a belt, which I think would be a very interesting thing to do. Considering Jordan's the current champion, I think giving the belt to somebody like Alicia when Jordan's the champion might really get her some heat. So I think there's some potential there. We had a no DQ match with PCO defeating Khan. This was your run of the mill match. I think PCO and Crazy Steve are building up to a feud, which I would be very curious to see. I think that's the way to go from here, but we'll see what happens with that. In another match I didn't see coming, Killer Kelly and Masha Samovich lost the belts to Danny Loon and Johnny Threat, who are now being dubbed Spitfire, which is a great tag team name. And they won it in 2 minutes and 34 seconds, which was shocking. I'm not overly excited about breaking up Killer Kelly and Masha Samovich, but clearly they have a lot of potential there as solo stars. But I really like the idea of having a tag team division with tag teams in it, regardless if it's men's or women's. So I would like to have seen MK Ultra stay around for a little while, but that doesn't seem to be the case, at least for the foreseeable future. Hammerstone defeated Alexander basically when Hammerstone turned heel and beat Alexander with a low blow. I was hoping they would book Hammerstone like fucking Hulk Hogan. Just big over the top, big swingy promos, just bombastic attire. We'll see how this goes. I'm very excited he's in TNA, and he actually does play a great heel. So maybe it'll be everything that it needs to be. Maybe it won't. We'll find out eventually. Mustafa Ali and the Grizzled Young Vets defeated Time Machines, Chris Sabin, Kushida, and Alex Shelley. There's some tensions with Sabin, Shelley, Kushida, and the fourth member of the squad. I forget what his name is off the top of my head. And it seems to be hinting that Shelley may be turning heel. I hope they don't go that route, but after this weekend, it's hard to say. It certainly is interesting. Mark, is there anything to weigh on before we move on to the last two matches?
Yeah. Did not expect the women's championship to go the way that it did, specifically with um, essentially MP Ultra getting a jump on Spitfire, which to your point is a great name as well. But I do like those two young ladies together. We had kind of talked about them coming off that women's X division, Ultimate X match. So putting them together, I think, really works. Um, I think they will be credible champions. I don't know why they necessarily doing what they did with MK Ultra. I mean, we were scratching our heads when they did the whole thing with Decay, the way that they did. Um, but at least, they planted seeds for them to have a reason to break up, because essentially Marsha was potentially headed towards, I would imagine, trying to be knockout champion, and she kind of, saw fit to, look at, a tag team partner and go, hey, there's something here, maybe putting her with me, we could be something sick. And then you have a stumble like they did with Decay, and then that's one thing, they bounce back from that. But this kind of felt like, are we really as good as we think we are when this can happen to us? And then, I guess, you could do a thing where, like I said, Slamovich could feel like she cut off her own momentum for the tag team, and not, she got embarrassed for it. So we'll see how that fall out. But I think to your point, we could have saw that get extended, but we do need some more tag teams in that division. And even more so to that point, I seen somebody tweet Gail Kim, asking like, "Oh, we go get some more tag teams." And Gail Kim kind of was like, "Of course we are. Just kind of be patient about it." So we'll see how that develops. But didn't see that coming. But like I said, it's gonna be interesting seeing young Spitfire grow. The second match was what you said the Grizzly Young Vets came out with the victory, right?
Grizzly Young Vets and Mustafa.
Most of us. So that I mean that tracks Mustafa got all the momentum coming out to the X Division thing with the other teams because Shelly's kind of having a splinter with Kushida, right?
Shelly, Saban, they're all having a thing with one another.
And it's odd that I mean, even though I might not necessarily be doing that as well, I can appreciate the seeds they planted because essentially it was that conversation before the match they had. He was like he basically gave him the Apollo Creed uh, thing that he gave to Rocky with doing that fight with Drago. Like, don't throw in his towel, don't stop this fight for nothing. And Kushida essentially threw in a towel, even though he was basically about to get lambasted with spears. It's that thing where it's like I guess in his mind he feel like they the reason why, or mainly Kushida's the reason why he ain't the champion. And even if that's solely his perception alone, it might be enough to turn that tide to something like you said, heel. So I'm interested in Hammerstone. Didn't see that coming either, but he had already lost to Alexander. Probably thought he was going towards that way again. A low blow for somebody his size kind of speaks to the level of threat that Alexander is. So um, it's real interesting seeing where they take some of this stuff. But I do appreciate the fact that they at least plant seeds for some of this stuff going certain ways. Because back in the past, they used to do it just for the hell of it under old regimes, and it didn't really make no sense. And they really wasn't trying to make sense. They were just trying to do stuff to, you know, project interesting and then not really be that. So, looking forward to this Thursday.
Should be interesting. That's for sure. That takes us to the last two matches. Jordan Grace defeated Tasha Steeles and Zaya Brookside to retain. Solid match. Again, nothing overly dramatic that you need to tune in for. And then main event, Moose defeated Eric Young to retain. The big moment from this was when Frankie Kazarian returned to attack Eric Young. So that's going to be the new feud going forward. I think they may have missed the boat on Kazarian being a heel. I think him staying as a face, if they're moving Alexander into a heel role, not Alexander, Hammerstone into a heel role, I feel like Kazarian should be the guy to take the face of it all and go for the title. Because, as much as I like Alexander, he's not the guy. He's good enough to main event as a wrestler. He's not good enough to carry the company. I feel like Kazarian really should have a shot to do that because he is still very talented and he's far more charismatic than a lot of the guys on this roster. So I feel like they missed the boat with Kazarian right now, and I'm not happy with a lot of this booking. It's not bad, but I can see so much more potential in it being played out. So, Moose retained. It was what it was. Solid matches. Nothing you should pay $40 for, but if you have TNA Plus, check it out on a replay. Any final thoughts on Sacrifice, Marcus?
Agreed. Sound like you said, it might not necessarily be nothing right to hold them about it. And that essentially they did have just 2 weeks to throw this thing together.
Essentially.
Yeah, we talked about it was a solid call on paper, and the roster always delivers either way, and they did here. But I'm looking forward to that next show, which I think is Rebellion. Which I think they'll have more time to build up to, particularly with things coming off of the show that we just went through. So, like you said, nice C+ show. Looking forward to seeing how they build off of it, and particularly coming off of how they do the Fallout this Thursday. So yeah, go check it out. You got TNA Plus, definitely go check it out.
All right, and that moves us on into a conversation that I kind of spurred on Twitter, where I mentioned that with Sting's last match, you go back to Ric Flair's last match, Ricky Steamboat's last match. The thing that it kind of keeps being harked on that I wish more people would realize, especially in TNA, is that these are opportunities to get in and co-promote these events. Mick Foley is 60, Goldberg's maybe 56, and they're both looking for, in Goldberg's case, he wants a retirement tour, like 3 or 5 matches. In Foley's case, he wants one more death match. Now, Goldberg's never wrestled for TNA, but I feel like you could do a solid year worth of storylines with Goldberg, have him show up to 5 or 6 tapings throughout the year, and then have him wrestle 3 matches on pay-per-view. I feel like that would be enough for Goldberg, and I feel like if you're TNA, you could use the pomp and circumstance of Goldberg's retirement tour, as well as the added influx of new customers. And I know people are like, well, Goldberg wouldn't want to go in front of low venues and stuff like that. I feel like TNA could pull off 5 to 7,000 viewers, or not viewers, people in attendance to see Goldberg wrestle a few times. So I feel like that's not a good enough reason. I don't know if Goldberg's thinking he's going to get 100,000 people per match. I don't think he's naive. And I think he would be open to the idea of TNA if they book it right, because there were rumors back in the day that he was going to come in. I want to say 2010, 2011. And that never ended up happening. So I think TNA would have a good opportunity to come in, highlight a few matches, maybe one or two, maybe three, and then call it a career. I think that would be awesome. Now, maybe he doesn't come to TNA, maybe he doesn't want to. I don't know. That leads us to Mick Foley. Foley has said he wants to do one more death match at age 60. He's going to get himself into shape. I feel like TNA could really get something out of this as well, and I feel like you could do a second match, maybe even three. Have Foley come in, wrestle, and beat someone like Crazy Steve to win the digital media title. Then have like a hardcore war 10-man tag, and then do a retirement match against whoever he wants to face. And you do it like Sting. If Sting wants, if Foley wants to take the pin, you let him take the pin. If Foley wants to go on top, you let him go out on top. I feel like both of those would be huge for TNA, and I feel like Foley would be more inclined to do something with TNA, only because he's already been there once before, won the world title for them, and was with them for 3 or 4 years. So I feel like there's more there for Foley if he wants it than Goldberg, but I feel like both guys need to be at least propositioned by TNA to be like, listen, you want to have a retirement match? We want to host a retirement match. And I feel like not doing that is malpractice on the largest scale possible for a pro wrestling booker. Now, Marcus, do you want to see Goldberg and Foley have retirement matches in TNA?
It would be cool to see it. I don't necessarily know if it'll happen either way because I feel like Goldberg may feel like he's almost old. To your earlier point about the numbers, like a bigger venue or something, or it feels like potentially WWE owes that to him. They don't really. I think they've given him set him up with enough opportunities to do whatever it was he did. Um, so I think TNA could be an equal, a mutual solid, I should say. With Mick, it honestly probably makes more sense than Goldberg, also because there's history there. He had a significant stint in TNA, but I feel like somebody like Mick would only probably want to do it at this point. This is obviously just me speculating. I don't know the man from a can of paint, but obviously I feel like he would probably want to do that in his stomping grounds of WWE, or looking at AEW and seeing what they did for Sting. Maybe they could do that for him, and he potentially has even more incentive to do it if he could run the block one more time and do it with Edge. Somebody
Now, that would be interesting.
Yeah, somebody that he's familiar with, somebody that he had a hell of a match with back in the day in WWE. Was somebody that he could trust, that'll protect him in a way. But yeah, I mean, look, I would have, if he genuinely gets in phenomenal shape, which we've seen, Jake the Snake get brought back from the brink. So, as long as he commit to it, and I mean, it's a hell of a thing to motivate you to actually get back in shape. So, I'd like to see it just for that personal health effect for him alone. But because I don't necessarily know if you got anything left to prove. He's literally giving his body to the business. But I understand, like, everybody feels like they're getting to close. Well, a lot of people feel like they're getting to close out their stuff on their terms. And when you look at something like Sting, it's a hell of a thing when you're a legend and you see something like that, and you kind of want something similar. So I get it, but I feel like it's crazy. It actually makes more. It feel like it'll be easier for Mick to do it with TNA because of the history. But I feel like he'll be more incentivized to go with AEW. Whereas with Goldberg, you would think it would be, you know, he'd be more incentivized to go with AEW, but he might end up having it easier with your TNA. So it'll be cool if they could get both on alone. But I do get your overall foundational point of whether either one happened, they need a big hook right now because I think uh, what AEW is finna pull like full top signers of the year: Osprey, Okada, uh, Monet, and somebody else. So they kind of need it.
Yeah, they didn't get Hammerstone. TNA got Hammerstone. So I feel like if those are
Yeah,
the top three names that you mentioned, Okada, Osprey, Monet, I feel like Hammerstone's four.
yeah, yeah. So at least they got Hamilton. You're right.
Right. So I feel like that's a good thing. Hammerstone, though, is coming from, if TNA is AAA, for the sake of argument, if you're a baseball fan, and AEW and WWE is the majors, just for a poor, shitty analogy, I feel like MLW is AA. So even though you and I know who Hammerstone is, and even though I praise the hell out of Hammerstone, I still acknowledge, as much as I love Hammerstone, and I am a Hammerstone fanatic, a Hammernatic, if you will, he still needs more exposure. He still needs more people to see who he is. And I feel like this is a great opportunity. However, that being said, I feel like with Goldberg specifically, guys like Hammerstone, Jake Something, PCO, Moose, I feel like there's enough hosses in TNA that you can do a few tag matches. And like, here's the thing: while Goldberg might be 57, I feel like if you put him in some like New Japan style tag matches, you can finesse 12 matches out of him if he wants that. And I feel like it would be a great send off. I really do. But he may want bigger audiences. He may not want to go with a smaller promotion. I get all that, and that's all fair. I just think there's potential there, personally. Speaking of potential, there's a potential, Marcus, that Nick Khan may be out of a job real soon. We talked before about how Vince McMahon is being investigated for a sex trafficking lawsuit. And it seems like the current WWE president, Nick Khan, not AEW's Tony Khan, clear distinction, as well as the WWE COO, Brad Bloom, have been named in the lawsuit, or at least not named, but referenced in the lawsuit. While it's stated by Front Office Sports that neither Khan nor Bloom is alleged to have participated, it is in fact asserted that they knew, despite the fact that Front Office Sports claimed otherwise. They are being, Khan and Bloom are the men identified as corporate officers number 1 and 2 in the sex trafficking lawsuit filed in January in federal courts in Connecticut against the company. The suit claims that Khan and Bloom, whose names have not been previously reported, were instrumental in a scheme in which the plaintiff, the woman who's suing Janelle Grant, was employed in a completely undefined role except for the understanding that she remains a sexual slave to be used and trafficked by McMahon within the WWE. So even though it says right here, is alleged to have participated in, neither Khan nor Bloom is alleged to have participated in or have known of abuse of any kind, the quote that they use directly nullifies the claim that they did not know. They did know. She claims that they were completely aware of the role she was to serve, which was to be used and abused by Vince McMahon. I don't know why people keep fucking this up. They knew, according to this lawsuit. They need to hang. Now you may think that's pretty bold. Hang them for knowing? I think what should happen to Laurinaitis and Vince McMahon, specifically Vince, is far worse than hanging. I believe it's called, what was it in Princess Bride, The Suffering? Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah, The Suffering. Yeah.
What was it called? Damn, I need to figure out what it is. So basically, the hero, Wesley. What is it? Let's see. I think it's called The Pain. I'll look for it here. Ooh, wait, here we go. I think I may have found it. To the pain. Yeah, that's what he calls it. To the pain. And in this, he describes it as, quote, I'll explain, I'll use small words so that you'll be able to understand. You warthog-faced buffoon. Let's see. Leave. That may be the first time in my life a man is dared to insult me. It won't be the last. So the pain means the first thing you will lose will be your feet below your ankles, then your hands, then your wrists, then next your nose. Quote, and then my tongue, I suppose. I killed you too quickly last time. A mistake, I don't mean to duplicate tonight. Wesley goes on to say, I wasn't finished. The next thing we'll lose will be your left eye, followed by your right. And my ears, I understand. Let's get on with it. Wesley, wrong! Your ears you keep, and I'll tell you why. So that every shriek of every child that after seeing your hideousness will be yours to cherish. Every babe that weeps at your approach, every woman who cries, dear God, what is that thing, will echo in your perfect ears. That is what the pain means. It means I leave you in anguish, wallowing in freakish misery forever. That's what I want for Vince McMahon. I don't want him to die. I want him to suffer. John Laurinaitis, more or less the same thing. Maybe he can keep an eye. But the other two, just get rid of them. If you know someone is being abused and you do nothing and you have the power, the morality, the responsibility, and the obligations to stop it, and you don't, you die. I feel like that's fair. You let someone get their life taken from them, you get yours taken from me. I'm just saying. This is bad. This is a lot worse than people may want to believe. And what I really need to explain to everyone is Stephanie McMahon's been named in this lawsuit, and I guarantee you Triple H will eventually get named as well. Because this was a systemic failing of the company, and every person involved in this needs to be fired. From Nick Khan to Triple H to anyone else in between. If wrestlers knew, they need to be fired. I don't give a shit if Cody Rhodes himself knew. I don't care if Roman Reigns, Walter, Gunther. I don't care if it's Chad Gable or whoever. This company needs to expunge itself of all these people who are tied to this debacle, and hope to God they can rebound on the other side. If we won't hold the UFC responsible for Dana White's misgivings and transactions against people, I feel like we need to get at least one person, or at least one entity under TKO, and let it be WWE. Marcus, in your opinion, do we think Nick Khan's going to get fired?
I don't think so. Because I think for the most part, they probably, because Vince is the direct guy involved in it, because essentially it was, for lack of a better phrasing, the whole scenario was set up to be for him to have a plaything, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially edging him completely out of the company and reiterating that he's gone. We have nothing to do with him. He has nothing to do with it. Dealings within us and the company on any level, and he's not coming back. They probably think that's a good amount of distancing in that regard, and because Nick Khan is viewed as the guy who's, they're doing business hand over fist right now because he's, the guy that I would imagine gets a lot of that praise for being responsible for a lot of that financial momentum. It's probably, it almost feels like he's racked up too much goodwill to be taken down, and it's getting to the point now where a lot of folks are probably like, for as many people as being, potentially named or allegedly named or being rumored to be named in the future, essentially everybody kind of knows, even if they don't want to full on admit it because of how they feel in relation to the person. That was primarily Vince doing the grunt work, if you will, of it. So I don't feel like it's probably come to that, because I feel like they very much have pretty much hung him out to dry at this point, even, so much as Laurinaitis throwing him under the bus. Vince, that is. So if it happens, I'll be surprised. But then again, like you said, this storm is continuing to grow, and it could obviously strengthen going down the road, because obviously I don't think this is going to be dropped anytime soon with more and more people speaking out, whether it be social media or potentially trying to join the lawsuit, what have you. So And with the company essentially doing hand over fist, people are even more incentivized to kind of feel like to get what they owe because they know they got it.
So Stephanie, it says here, who is described as knowing of other instances of Vince's engaging in inappropriate sexual conduct, knew who Grant was to an extent. 3 months after the NDA between McMahon and Grant was signed in 2022, Stephanie McMahon announced she was taking a leave of absence from the company. A month later, on a probe by the WWE Board of Official, payments made by WWE involving NDAs with several female employees and performers. After his subsequent resignation as CEO on the board, she became interim CEO. And in early 23, her father seized control of the board ahead of WWE's eventual merger with the UFC. Under auspices of Ari Emanuel's endeavor, she resigned days later. 70 Man has not responded to a request for a comment. So, yeah, it's going to get ugly. This is only the beginning, folks. Your favorites are going to go down. Just accept it. Speaking of accepting it, we got to point out something here. The WWE is getting a little too weird with the way they're handling this Maxine Dupree conversation. Her brother, in real life, not LA Knight, her real life actual brother died in a car accident. And while I understand AEW is doing it with Christian Cage, I feel like with this, it's not going to come off as well for a variety of reasons. One, Christian Cage is dealing with grown men, and there is a inherent viewpoint that's different when dealing with women and dealing with men. Men tend to, at least in cinema, when you insult them, they get angry. Women tend to break down. And even the way they've handled it, when you watch AEW, whenever Christian Cage insults someone for having a dead dad, they try to fight Christian Cage. But last night, Candice LeRae, who, by the by, terrible human being, insulted Maxine Dupree, and as we show on the screen, she cried about it. And I feel like when you do that, you automatically set it up for it to be not well received. But for me, it's not so much the angle, because it's distasteful, sure, but it's made worse. Because this is a woman who has been friends or was friends with Joey Ryan for 15 odd years. And I just want to point that out. That we really let off a lot of people who knew these wrestlers behind closed doors. And we didn't hold them responsible. I feel like Candice Michelle. I'm sorry, not Candice Michelle, Candice LeRae, who is beloved by everyone. I feel like we're letting her off the hook for maybe, I don't want to say propping up Joey Ryan and allowing him to do his torrid use of abuse, but she had to know. Somebody had to say something to her, right? I feel like sometimes we let some of these people get off the hook. Like Cody Rhodes was really good friends with Marty Scurll and was really good friends with Mary, I shouldn't say was good friends, but like Jimmy, what was his name? Not Havoc, the British one. You remember?
Right.
I got got an image. What is it?
First one I went to. Mention more of the scroll. I'm trying to think of another Jimmy.
Is it Jimmy Havoc? Yeah, it's Jimmy Havoc. Okay. Jimmy Rave. That's who I didn't want to confuse him with. Jimmy Havoc is the right person. Jimmy Rave was the one I was worried about confusing him with. He was friends with a lot of guys in AEW. You know, it's one of the reasons he got brought on. You know, you look at Marty Scurll. He was friends with a lot of those guys. Bobby Fish was friends with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and so on and so forth. Like, we kind of ignore people when their friends get out. I mean, you are the company you keep, right? So, like, seeing Candice LeRae do this is extra gross only because of who her buddy is Joey Ryan. You know, like, she got discovered, in essence, because of Joey Ryan. Like, their whole shtick was wrestling each other and traveling together and being friends together. I can't imagine with all the women Joey Ryan allegedly assaulted and abused and harassed that one of them didn't try to go to Candice LeRae for help. Now that's not something I can prove. It's merely hyperbole. It's being hyperbolic. Yeah, I can't say for sure that any of them actually did go to Candice LeRae, but if you're in the know, I feel like you're in the know. You have to know what's going on. So, I for one find it distasteful for a lot of reasons. For one, the way they're treating or making, I should say, the way they're making Dupree react to these insults, and the people who are insulting them. I just feel like it's scummy, and this is a company that can't afford the scumminess. That's just my takeaway. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, even without the, and you know, I kind of maybe didn't know as how connected she was to Joey Ryan, but that's interesting to say the least. Like you said, I would imagine it's hard to spend that much time as you imagine they did together, and not have some inkling of some behind the scenes, more gross dealings in that regard. But even without that, just the concept of the thing, like you said, we talked about it and probably thought she was referencing Max Dupree, who I thought uh, that might have been a direct thing because I mean, didn't even click to me until you said it because I tried to, like I would imagine LA Knight trying to put that far behind in my psyche. But that almost would, well, not really, not even in continuity because they acknowledged on screen that he went from Max Dupree to LA Knight. So yeah, the real life thing, when you realize, confirm that she got a real life brother who was passed on, it is gross. And I get it. We've seen far more deeper lines blurred in a lot of regards over the years. Some to high quality effect, some just for the hell of it. It always kind of rubs me the wrong way just because I'm a person that doesn't really like touching on that stuff. Just because it never feels like it's not an open wound, even if you get permission from the other person. So, um, but that's just one way of looking at it for them. It's involved in the storytelling, you know, and if both sides are cool with it, then it is what it is. I just don't know right now if I can trust that they're gonna use it to really significantly get her to another level because, and I understand them trying to capitalize off that momentum of all the uh scuttlebutt that she had coming off of that house show where she got kind of in a bad way verbally with how she was being ridiculed by the crowd. But I don't know if I could trust them right now to put her in a significant spot because she don't necessarily have the wrestling ability. So they're gonna have to do a lot of character work and lean in a lot of that. And it's interesting because they're using an individual in Candice LeRae who, for all I guess the props and you know stuff that she's talking about skill wise, they really haven't done anything significant with her. She had more potential momentum in NXT when she was working with Gargano than she has the entire time on the main roster. So using somebody that really doesn't have much momentum to prop somebody else up to gain momentum, it's kind of just kind of looking like shaky ground on me right now. So like I said, my only real big sticking point is if you're going to use a fish like this, um, you know, you got to make it work because that is going into the hard banks, if you will. So I just don't know if I trust him right now, even with the switch up in the consistency in the booking we've seen. I don't know if I trust him to pay it off in a way that'll make it worth it. So
And I agree. I agree with that. Let's move on. Another big controversy that occurred last week was the WWE going with a Prime energy drink logo on the center of the ring. Personally, I don't mind the idea of advertisements in the middle of a ring. TNA does it, New Japan does it. It's fine. You know, boxing does it, MMA does it. It's kind of just one of those tropes that you accept when you watch combat sports. My problem is it's an ugly fucking logo. It is ugly, it is tacky, and it is dumb. Marius, are you on board with the Prime logo?
no, I'm right there with you, bro. Also, do we know of Not that we've had a plethora of them to come along. Do we know if it's even a quality product?
No, it's not. It's apparently has so much caffeine, it's not recommended for children, and their entire audience base is directed at children.
Because just because Randy Orton took a sip of it in a segment, it's like this is good, and then d- dumped it over who that was. I'm guessing his partner is KSI, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, don't mean it's good. So, and you got to be mindful with those energy drinks anyway. So yeah, I don't. I mean, I think it's interesting that they threw that out there because that's their first time doing it, right?
Yeah.
In that way, anyway. I don't necessarily think it's necessary. I think it's something they're doing to kind of more so work with and appease, um, obviously Paul. But I don't think they need. And if they're gonna go with something that has better notoriety and a better brand with it than that. Because I've really heard nothing good about that drink. That a lot of the scuttle around it has kind of been used to take shots at him, and probably rightfully so. Because, like I said, if it got as much caffeine, and I even think I heard some about his drink, in like a news segment on a podcast or radio show I listened to. So, um, those energy drinks are not really nothing to play with, man. And,
No.
I think even Flair has one now, which they promote in AEW.
Yes, they do.
But yeah, so I just don't. Yeah, I don't think that's the thing they need to be necessarily marketing. But I get it if you want to do that to appease, Paul for however long they're gonna use him. I get it, but I personally wouldn't do it.
So here's just a little heads up: a coffee cup, a 8 fluid ounce coffee cup, contains 95 milligrams of caffeine. Experts say 400 milligrams in a day is within the range of normal consumption. So you could have 5 or 6 cups of coffee in a day; you'd be fine. A single can of 12 ounce. So this is 4 ounces more. 12 ounces compared to 8 ounces. The Prime Energy has 200 milligrams of caffeine in 12 fluid ounces. So it's more than it's. If you were to balance it out to the same amount of ounces, it's probably twice as much caffeine per. So that's just to give you an idea on what you're dealing with. That's a lot of caffeine. And I think it's among the highest caffeinated drinks out there. Let's see. Most caffeine energy drinks with the most caffeine. Let's find out. Energy drinks with the most caffeine from the Caffeine Informer. This is from. I don't have a date. It's got to be old because I don't see. Well, it may not be old because. Yeah, all right. So the highest one documented by Caffeine Informer isn't Prime. It's Hyde Extreme in a 12 fluid ounce bottle. And they go all the way down to a bottle that contains 250 milligrams, which is Bang Natural. So it looks like even though Prime is bad, it's not bad enough. Although I'm starting to rethink. Actually, I'm not rethinking. I've already stopped drinking energy drinks. And I'm starting to see some of those, like energy shots, can have up to 300 milligrams in a shot. What? That is insanity. I can't believe we allow that much caffeine. I think the stuff from, what was it? Panera, their charged lemonade has even more than that. So.
Yeah, it's weird. I think I heard a story about a chick having somebody dying or something because they had a reaction to one of
Mm-hmm.
those heat or something, which was crazy. Yeah, but I did hear something about how much damn caffeine is in those drinks, and there's like a brand that's either the part of Prime that's a lower tier of the drink that kids can use or something to that effect. But I think just the energy drink narrative in general is not good. And I was potentially looking into, and I don't know if you check this out, looking into those AG1 products. Uh, where it's like all of the vegetable intake, I guess you need, and you could it's a powder that you can put in a
Mm-hmm.
cup and drink. Potentially looking into that as a form of energy source as opposed to the energy drink because it seems like it's like adrenaline just to shoot you up and then you crash if you don't
Well,
have some reaction to it.
so the charged lemonades had 390 milligrams at one point, and then they reduced to 237. And the 390 mark was what was killing people because people would have two of them because they're not big drinks. They're a standard medium sized drink. So they would have two of them, or maybe even three, and then they're like, "Why are people dying?" Well, they just ingested 1,200 milligrams of caffeine. Go fucking figure. As far as the logo itself, though, it's just dumb. It's tacky. I think they would have been better off doing four small ones in the corners as opposed to one big one. The color palette doesn't work. The bottle doesn't work. It's just bad. Speaking of bad, though, we got to talk about the Hall of Fame. The WWE's announced that they're inducting real life family members Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda, who were formerly the U.S. Express, I think is what their tag team name was. They wrestled at WrestleMania 1, lost to, who was it, the Iron Sheik and, I can't remember, Vladimir Koloff? Jesus Christ, I don't remember. I wasn't even alive in WrestleMania 1. It was Sheik and Alex Koloff? No, different wrestlers. It was Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. There it is. And the U.S. Express are Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda. Mike Rotunda married into the Windham family by marrying Barry Windham's, I believe, sister. They're good friends in real life, and it's why Mike Rotunda named his oldest son, who was, of course, the late great, or I shouldn't say great, but the late Bray Wyatt, whose real life name was Windham, after, of course, Barry and his family. They are now going into the Hall of Fame, and I'm sitting here wondering, wow, we've really shrunk the bar. I thought Coco Beware, who, granted, I would still say is above the U.S. Express, was the low point for an actual full-time wrestler. We now have a new low point. It's the U.S. Express. Now, listen, Barry Windham is maybe a Hall of Famer on his own. Maybe. I wouldn't even say definitively he wasn't a great worker. I know a lot of people like to say he was. He wasn't. Very mid-tier, especially for the late 80s, early 90s. And I know Rotunda has its, it has its supporters, especially with, his sons being as popular as they were, but he was never a Hall of Famer. He had a good gimmick, and I think if you could, if you want to make the case that IRS, which was his more famous gimmick, deserved to be in the Hall of Fame, I would be more amendable to that. I think that's not the worst thing in the world. IRS was a legendary gimmick, but this tag team specifically, I don't think makes sense. I don't. So I'm a little apoplectic at this year's Hall of Fame. I think it's not very good. Marcus, I'm going to look up this year's Hall of Fame real fast, but what do you think so far of the individuals who have gone in, specifically the U.S. Express at this exact moment? Well, what do you feel about the U.S. Express going in?
Yeah, it perplexed me just because I was ignorant to their existence. I didn't know. Didn't know who they were. Didn't know what they did. I get it. But no shots at it. But it do feel like a lot of times we've gotten this over the last decade or so with the Hall of Fame. They pick extreme credible names, and then as they go down the line, they feel like they start to pad it out for to just fill in spots. Whether they I feel like they've consistently done it with the celebrity uh, picks that they've done. Obviously, this year has far more credibility because of just who it is, and as you look it up. But this feels like one of those things where they kind of padded it out because they've had situations where they've put in people multiple times for obviously different factions and whatnot. But no, it's a cool nod. Obviously they were part of the first WrestleMania, I think. But I don't know if they've had significant lasting power in terms of you know being a part of the ongoing legacy of everything that's come since then. So um, it's a hell of a thing for them and their families, obviously. But this does feel like one of those instances, and again, not to knock them, but it does feel like one of those situations where WWE kind of padded it out again, coming off of I think Heyman and Bull Nakano, who were legends in their own right. So, but this is kind of their thing. This is what they do.
I completely forgot that the Great Khali is in the Hall of Fame, so maybe the USA Express aren't the lowest one on the totem pole anymore. But yeah, Paul Heyman, Bull Nakano, and Muhammad Ali, I think with all due respect to each of them, probably deserve to be in the WWE Hall of Fame to some extent or another. I can't say the same for the US Express, but they're going in. My opinion does not matter. They're going in. Speaking of WrestleMania, we have a new match added. It's going to be Gunther versus Sami Zayn. We also have the six-pack ladder match, which will feature the Judgment Day taking on 5 separate teams in the aforementioned ladder match. We also have the Bloodline taking on Cody Rhodes and Seth Freaking Rollins on the first night of WrestleMania, with Rollins versus Drew and Roman versus Cody on night 2. We knew most of all this. The new development, of course, is Sammy versus Gunther in the tag match. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the tag match. We'll let the matches be named, the tag teams be named for the match before we dive into our judgment on that. Gunther versus Sami Zayn, what are we thinking? Beat out Chad Gable. Are you on board with that move or not?
That again, you had cut out.
Are you on board with the Gunther Sami Zayn match?
Look, I never root against Sami Zayn. He's those guys that always feels like he's kind of fighting from behind as the ultimate one of the ultimate underdogs in the company. But I think ultimately, and maybe this was a part of the plan. Long game it, if you will, with Chad Gable. But I feel like he had the momentum. I mean, they're doing these great things now, and I think The Rock's leading the way. With these social media promos that they did some work off camera and had a lot of these vignettes aired on social media. That was really great, and Gable specifically had one that had 2 or 3 videos that was really good, and I think coming off the momentum of him losing that match, losing literally in front of his family, his daughter legitimately crying to him losing, Gunther teasing the daughter about crying and calling Gable a crap father to his face, and then building off of that, I think that's the momentum that you need to get somebody back into a space where they could potentially, finally topple the giant, if you will. And they came close here, and they pulled the rug from everybody, and they gave it to Zayn. I mean, it's kind of split the audience because I don't know if you're gonna get anybody to root against Zayn, but for somebody like Gable to finally build a momentum that he should have been really riding this whole time, because his skill set alone is insane. He kind of reminds you of a Kurt Angle. It's kind of perplexing, but I wonder what they're gonna. I'm gonna wait the whole reservation to see what they're gonna do with it. We still got some time before Mania. There's a thing, I guess, on social media showing that Gable's shoulders might have not necessarily been down on the mat, either one, when he got pinned. So they may go with that, and maybe they have him snap and find another way to get into the match. Like I said, we got some weeks to go before April, so there's ways to do it, and maybe that's the story of him always getting that close and then having it yanked from under him. So, but if you're gonna go with somebody, Zayn's not a bad pick either. He's another one of those ultimate underdog stories. But if it was me, I'd eventually have it get to Gable.
I would not have Gunther lose to Zayn.
Yeah.
Gunther's loss needs to be a star-making experience. And listen, Chad Gable's 38. He's older than I am. Love the guy. But I feel like this is Dolph Ziggler 2.0. I feel like he's sticking around too long instead of chasing the rightful name evaluation he deserves. So if he doesn't get put into this match at WrestleMania, I think it's time for him to leave the company and try his hand elsewhere. They've done enough pussyfooting around with him, and it's time. Some brief news. SummerSlam is coming to Cleveland, Ohio. That'll be dope. It's going to be held in the Cleveland Browns Stadium. Apparently, Logan Paul, who unfortunately is from Cleveland, is being tied to the event, and I could see very much so him keeping that U.S. title all the way until SummerSlam. Technically, he's from Westlake, Ohio, but that's a suburb. It's Cleveland. Not Cleveland proper, but it's Cleveland. So I could see him holding his U.S. title all the way to SummerSlam. Uh, Outside of this being, my backyard, I really don't have any opinions on this. Cleveland's a great market for sporting events, and Cleveland Brown Stadium's a great venue to have big ass stadiums in, or big ass stadium shows, I should say. They routinely have sellouts in the summer for like whatever dumb concert that they're doing with country stars. So they're going to sell out SummerSlam. It's going to be impressive, and I think people will thoroughly enjoy it. That being said, his brother is actually in the news for fighting former WWE Hall of Famer Mike Tyson, and I'm curious as what you think about that. Because I liked Tyson's return in, 2021 when he fought Roy Jones.
Yeah, man.
But I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah, when I first heard about the SummerSlam thing, obviously you the first thing that came to my mind, when they said Cleveland, I was like, I wonder if Chad's gonna go. Uh, because I don't even know, like I know you went to the TNA shows in recent years, but I don't know the last time you went to a WWE event.
Oh God, it's been the one that I didn't work because I went to one probably 2013. I think it was a house show, but I worked it. I was working security at the time. I was working backstage doing ID checks.
Gotcha.
The last one I went to, I want to say was 2007.
Oh, wow.
It was a SmackDown, and it was one that had, I want to say, MVP and Ken Kennedy against Bobby Lashley in a 2-on-1 tables match that they fucked up and had to reshoot. So that was the last one I went to that I paid for. So could be I could be interested. Now the thing is, I don't like big shows. The TNA show was really inviting because there's like maybe 1,500 people there. Like that was dope. But Cleveland Brown Stadium will hold probably close to 70,000 people, all told. That I don't even like going to Cleveland Brown football games anymore because I don't want to deal with all the people. So like I don't know. Maybe it's not for me.
Yeah, I was just curious, but yeah, that's cool. Like you said, Cleveland's a great sporting town. Obviously, both Paul brothers are gonna be, busy. More so feels like his younger brother facing off with one of the most notorious boxers to ever do it, and Tyson. That's interesting because like what Tyson's almost 60.
Yeah, he's 57.
Yeah, so there's that. I mean, these Paul brothers have certainly made waves in the world of boxing and obviously social media and that whole thing. But yeah, I mean, like I like what he did when he came back in with 2021 against Junior, and even then at his age, and like it's funny because Tyson's one of those people. Like even when you sit down and watch his podcast, Hot Boxing Mike Tyson, like he's intimidating in a sitting down conversation. So when you get him in these situations where people is he nuts to fight or whatever, and obviously Paul's significantly younger, has all the advantages on his side. It's like it's still Tyson.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's still not somebody I'm trying to trade with at all, because he still got that. I would imagine he still got that devastating power, and that veracity, and obviously coming off of his history, I feel like he still got a tiger in him. He's still having to get out in that regard because he's relatively been tamed for the longest time. Now, I feel like the only outburst he's really had in recent memory was whatever that a-hole was that provoked him on that plane. So yeah. So
now it looks like it looks like they've released some footage of him, and he looks fine. I don't know how accurate the new footage is, but he seems to have the same power. Now, he's not going to be as quick as he was even several years ago, but he's still going to have power. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to translate into a fight with Jake Paul, but or whatever Paul we're talking about. But I think it's not going to be as bad as people think. I think Tyson's going to look a lot better than he thinks. The problem is if Jake Paul can't beat a 57-year-old Mike Tyson, then what the fuck is he
Yeah, it's gonna come down to whether he wanna I guess play or pray, because you got to have obviously you got to instinctually have a level of fearlessness, which I don't doubt, because like I said, both of these brothers have been making waves in that regard, but you still going against essentially the king in that way, and that power is still there, that veracity is still there. Like I say, somebody like Tyson has been relatively demure and calm and finding other avenues to succeed and put his energy into all these years. But there's still that beast on the inside of him, and I would imagine that he still, can only get out one way, which is why I would imagine he put himself in this position. So I wouldn't play with him. I don't know if I could see. I mean, it could happen because age, um, ultimately fails everybody. But it's one of those things where he's in a no-win situation, because if he gets knocked out by Tyson, everybody will like, it's Tyson. But if he knocks Tyson out, everybody like, wait, it's Tyson at 56. So you're not really getting the full thing either way. So uh, it's gonna be interesting to see that fight. It's gonna be interesting to see, because I know you keep your eye on combat sports heavy. It's definitely gonna be interesting to see this Garcia Haney fight. Uh,
That should be
with all the
interesting.
with all the stuff going into that, hopefully the young gun can get his head in the game in time. It looks like that's what he's doing. Um, Going into that, we also just saw a hell of a knockdown with who that was. Not Fury, but Ngannou.
Yeah, Anthony Joshua just
Yeah.
humbled Francis Ngannou. Now Joshua, I've always liked Joshua to an extent. He did real well by going up to Ngannou afterwards and giving him praise when he didn't have to. I'm happy that it went the way it did because it helps fortify boxing. But if we're talking about boxing, I got one man who's in my heart, just one, and it's Alexander Usyk. Just Google a photo of this man smiling. He'll make you shiver. He wants to fight Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury's afraid of him.
Alexander Usyk.
Yeah, Alexander with
Okay.
with an O, Usyk. That's his last name. He is a Ukrainian fighter who. Let's just say that there are a few people more born ready to be a champion boxer than this man. He's violence personified. While you look that up, though, I'm going to move on to our last story. Shelton Benjamin is open to joining AEW. Homicide is open to joining AEW. Do either of these men make you want to watch AEW more, or should they join?
No, not necessarily. But I have been a fan of Benjamin since he first debuted. Um, and I've been looking for him to have, far better. Right, it was cool to see him with Lashley and all those boys in the Hurt Business, but that whole faction got done wrong. And they never really was able to get that back together with any significant momentum. So, for Benjamin to be, I want to say he's either mid to late 40s or
Late
something in
40s
that
for sure.
regard.
He's probably 48.
Yeah. Um, him in all truth, man. Yeah, I mean, for him to still be at the level that he's at, the shape that he's in, obviously he's not the 2005, killing in the Money in the Bank that we, knew him as, but he's still somebody that go out there and I would imagine put in a lot of work. If he can do that in AEW, that would be cool to see. I would personally like to see him pass through TNA. Because I just think there's more chance, like for a lot of people, to get more prominence in terms of visibility and match quality and match consistency. With obviously it's a smaller roster, but if he can go to AEW and at least have far better of a run than he did in WWE, I wouldn't knock that either. As far as Homicide, it almost feels like to an extent. I want to say Homicide's been there, but maybe I'm thinking about somebody else. Um, I feel like Homicide might be somebody that kind of goes there and kind of just unfortunately blends in. I don't know if he can go to AEW and stand out, because I feel like we either have amalgamations of Homicide or instances of him, uh, which feels like the same thing, but the amalgamations of him and different people. So That's interesting. But like I said, both guys can go off the homicide. I think it's coming off of a stint with NWA, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And MLW.
Yes.
Yeah, if they could go there and get more prominence than the brands they were previously on, man, more power to them. And get the money that they want at the same time. It's can't knock it.
Now, it should be noted that Homicide did wrestle for Ring of Honor for a long time and then rejoined them in 2021, which is right before I think AEW purchased them. He wrestled 15 matches for them before the purchase. I wouldn't mind seeing Homicide return to TNA, truth be told. I think there's a lot there that they could go with, and I think it'd be nice to see, truthfully.
Also, this Usyk guy seems like the final boss and like a proper expendable sequel.
Yeah, he reminds me of like the proper boss at the end of like something like Streets of Rage, if you ever played that for the Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
He's a crazy man, but I adore him, and I want to see him
Yeah.
fight Tyson Fury so badly.
Yeah, and the only style he looks mildly like calm in is like the comb over type style. Everything else is like villain.
He's Ukrainian. And I feel like he's. I think he did fight in the war at some point, and then he had to leave for training. So like he's actually a killer. I don't know how much
And
action he saw, but like I'm pretty sure he was conscripted at some point, or maybe he joined voluntarily.
and you say Fury scared of him?
It seems to be like Fury won't say he is, but he keeps ducking the fight.
Cause he wasn't he egging on who that was? Is he egging on Ngannou trying to fight Ngannou in a street fight or something? Who has Fury been at the press conferences for lately?
Probably everyone. I don't listen to Fury. Tyson Fury is one of the greatest boxers of all time, but I can't listen to that man talk. A few days after the invasion, Usyk boxer Vasily Lomachenko and Bellator heavyweight champion Yaroslav Amosov traveled to Ukraine to join the country's territorial defense forces. Although in March, Usyk left Ukraine to train for his rematch with Anthony Joshua. So he has fought in the war, for however briefly it is. So, yeah, don't fuck with him. That's going to take us to the end of the show unless there's anything else you want to hop in on.
No, that's it for me.
Let's wrap it up. RealNerdCorp.com, RealNerdCorp.com. Twitter's NERDCORP. You can find Marcus on Twitter at ParadoxKid, ParadoxKid.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Brandon Show, TruePennyShow. You can find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, CHED, NERDCORP, that's CHED, NERDCORP, and on the Instagram at Chad Swidow, at CHEDSPHOTOHUT. We'll be back next Tuesday at 9 p.m. for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus, take us home.
Good night.